Hey everyone, welcome to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast, the ultimate blueprint to self-love and inner peace. I'm your host, Danielle Van. As a cognitive behavioral therapist, life coach to women, meditation teacher, and author, I've spent my life studying and learning from the stories that make us human. It's my passion and goal to help you shift your mindset and create a lifelong revolution to help you reach your greatest potential, gratitude. It's more than a practice. It is a true mindset, a lifestyle. It's a thing that impacts our mental health, our relationships, the way that we see and interact with the world around us. It truly is the secret sauce, if you will, to everything that is good and moving forward in our lives. So today, you and I are taking a one-on-one deep dive into gratitude, what it is, how it can be practiced, and what it does to the brain and the nervous system, and how it can shift and mold the experience that you have in your day-to-day life. This is an empowering conversation that takes what is working for you and puts it on the forefront. So let's not waste a minute longer. The Get Your Life Together Girl podcast starts right now. Gratitude is sort of a buzzword. I'm not going to lie, right? It's everywhere, especially this time of the year where we start thinking about family and the upcoming holidays, and we start really thinking about how we're going to make it through. And yet gratitude is not a seasonal operation. It's not a practice that you should only put in place as we head toward the end of the year. Practicing gratitude has incredible effects, benefits, and it hits everything from improving your mental health to boosting your relationships to even making your physical health a top priority. It helps you be more mindful. There are so many impacts. When I first opened the Get Your Life Together Girl Instagram page, I remember writing a quote that sticks with me even to this day. It's probably long forgotten by all of the followers there, but for me, it's something that I focus on. That quote is, "If you woke up tomorrow and the world only operated on gratitude, would you have enough currency to survive?" I think about that every single day. It's something that I have really tried to initiate in every intention that I create. And it's something that I hope that you will also do. If you don't have a current gratitude practice, or you feel like just throwing out some gratitude isn't going to be enough, we need to talk about how we shift this operation, this practice into a mindset, a lifestyle, a daily thought pattern, to where it becomes the way that you show up no matter what is happening in your life. Every single day, I have women and men that come in, we sit together, we talk about all the things that are really hard, and I'm reminded over and over again how our mindset, our thought pattern really dictates how we feel, how we see the world, what we experience. If all we focus on is what isn't working for us, and we're not focused on the things that are, the things that have true forward motion connected to them, that currency feeling, guess what? Everything is awful. Everything is hard. Everything has this layer of lack that's involved with it. And when we practice gratitude, that feeling is really secondary. Not saying that that feeling doesn't exist. What I'm saying is it comes and it goes because we know that isn't our true reality. Let's talk about what gratitude is for just a moment, because what many people don't understand is even though gratitude is a practice, at its core, gratitude is actually a positive emotion. So what we're doing here is we are literally practicing an emotion. That seems very strange to a lot of people. I hope that's an aha light bulb moment for you. But there are people who practice anger, and that is an emotion. So here we're leaning into a positive emotion that involves being grateful, having an appreciation for the good things that are happening in our lives. Gratitude can both be a state, so we're living in it, right? An experience, and it can be a trait. And this is where the word practice becomes involved with gratitude. Trait meaning it's an experience that you cultivate into a habit, okay? And the more we have a habit of something, the more likelihood it becomes a trait of ours. Gratitude is a mental, emotional, physical aspect to the way that you respond to your life. It's a form of generosity that is both inner and outward. It is something that truly makes such a massive impact in our day-to-day lives. A lot of times people will say, okay, I just feel like gratitude is sort of this hot buzzword, this hot topic that everybody is practicing now. But I want you to realize that the reason why is because there's been so many studies and research done about how this truly can impact us. We're going to talk about how we measure gratitude. We're going to talk about signs of gratitude. We're going to talk about the history of gratitude. And I'm going to give you some ways to get into a space of practicing gratitude, and even how there are different types of gratitude in this conversation together. But let's first talk about the impact. Now that you realize that we're practicing an emotion, let's talk about the impact on the brain. So when you have a normal gratitude practice and mindset, this can actually boost your mental health. Science has proven that those who practice gratitude over a 12-week time, so that means consistently, there is true grounded evidence that the brain function that surrounds around depression is altered, okay? Another study showed that gratitude activates the same center of our brain that our touch is involved and our pain center is involved, which means that we don't have as many receptors towards pain. In other words, it works with the brain and the networks associated with social bonding and stress relief, which overall impacts our long-term health. Another study found that having a consistent and constant gratitude practice is connected to having a lower heart rate, to lower blood pressure, to having better emotional control and less pain symptoms. Overall, those who practice gratitude, have a mindset of gratitude, have fewer reported long-term illnesses. They have a stronger immune system. They have a greater attachment to their goals and to motivation, because gratitude literally lights up the reward system in the brain, that frontal cortex. And it really allows us to live in a space that works for us. Again, we're using this emotion to our benefit. Think about the last time you felt grateful for something. How did you feel? You likely felt like warm and kind and generosity. It's rare that someone says, I'm so grateful for the BS. I mean, I do. I encourage you to. But it's rare, right? It's rare that a lot of people feel that way. Building a mindset and a capacity for gratitude is really not difficult. It takes a little bit of commitment. It takes some practice, some focus, some attention. But in order to do it, it's really not that difficult, right? So let's talk about signs of gratitude. What does gratitude look like before we get into some steps in cultivating a practice? Have you ever looked at your life and thought to yourself, things are going pretty well, right? That is a very simple form of appreciation, an expression of appreciation. And before we deep dive into those steps and building this into our mindset, because it is a little different when it is a mindset and not a practice, let's talk about some of those signs. So, and these are just examples, like I always give, right? Because your expression of gratitude may look different than your neighbor or even mine. So, some examples may be spending a few moments that you are thinking about things in your life that are actually working in your favor. That's a big one, right? Or stopping to observe and acknowledge the beauty and the wonder in your life. That's certainly a sign of gratitude. Being thankful for your health or your mental health or your emotions, that's a sign of gratitude. Being happy and grateful that your basic needs are met, gratitude sign. Thanking someone for their positive influence in your life, that's something that you are really leaning into gratitude if you're doing. Giving to others, paying attention to the small things that bring you joy and peace. Meditation or prayer focused on giving things. Really anything that makes you feel good, that brings your mindset into a place of truly experiencing the moment. Because gratitude is often a spontaneous emotion that you feel really not necessarily because you are thinking, oh gosh, I need to be grateful right now, but because something happens and you have true appreciation, true presence of what is occurring. Some people are more naturally prone to experiencing it than other people, and some people really have to work to cultivate it. It doesn't really matter. It's just a matter of how can you get into a space where you allow what is working to be the forefront, the thought leader, instead of the thing that you quantify everything against. What does that mean? So a lot of times I'll be talking to people and they'll say, everything's bad. Well, one, that's not true. It's just not. Not everything in your life is terrible. There are things to be grateful for. But I will say, okay, let's talk about what is good. And they'll give me one thing and I'll say, see, that's really good. And it often comes with a but. So the word but is such a space that takes your mindset down into a negative. The word but really is a negative. It is a measure to what could be better. Let me give you an example of that because it's extremely important to eradicate but, should, not, all of those out of your language. Think about it this way. When someone says, I love you, but the I love you doesn't hold much weight. In fact, you have completely forgotten it because the word but puts you in the defensive mode. The but has such a negative connotation. And when we are looking at weighing gratitude, a lot of times people will say, I know I have this, but yesterday I did that. And they use the but to disqualify the gratitude. We want to put the gratitude in the front, right? We don't want to use our negatives as the evidence that everything is impossible, that we're not deserving, that everything that we do falls apart, whatever it may be. We want to put the gratitude in the beginning and not have that soft startup and that hard slap of but. So we can measure gratitude. You can evaluate your tendency to experience gratitude by asking some discovery questions that I think everyone should really ask themselves. So grab your pen and paper. Let's write them down. The first thing is, do you ever think about what you are grateful for? This is a yes or no. And then I want you to write down from 0 to 10, 10 being the most, I think about this all the time, to 0, never. Where would you rate that thought pattern? How often does the thought of gratitude, the thought of thankfulness come up for you? 0 to 10. The next qualifying question is, have you ever or do you ever make a list of what you're grateful for? How long ago was that, right? Do you do it regularly? I know for me, that is an every Sunday morning kind of thing. regardless of what's going on. So when was the last time, if ever, that you have made a true bona fide gratitude list? The next question is, when you look at the world, how many things can you point out that you're grateful for? I know this is really an interesting thing for a lot of people when I ask them to start practicing gratitude. And I'll say, I want you on your daily exercise routine, when you're out walking around or you're out for your run or driving to the gym or wherever it is that you are, to take a moment, and I want you to look across the scene of what you're taking in visually and point out to yourself a few things that you're truly grateful for and give the reason why. How often has that happened? How often have you done that practice? 0 to 10, 10 being the most, 0 never. Okay? Write down these true numbers too. Don't try to fool yourself. It's not a grade. Nobody's coming to check your paper, okay? And then I want you to ask yourself, do I feel like I have an appreciation for my life? 0 to 10. Do I feel like I have an appreciation for the people that I hope to grow old and have a bond with? 0 to 10. Do you frequently experience moments where you recognize your gratitude, where all of a sudden you're kind of struck by this appreciation? 0 to 10. Do you appreciate and have in your life a large variety of people? That seems like an odd question, but it's a very important one. If you were able to answer somewhere between a 6 and a 10 to all of those questions, guess what? You do have a sense of gratitude, and the higher your score, the greater the sense of gratitude. If you've answered no to all or many of these, you really need to take a step towards bringing more gratitude into your life. It's so necessary. It's so empowering. So let's talk about the types of gratitude, and then we're going to talk about how to observe. So gratitude is an effective trait, meaning it can really be about someone's general disposition. Some people just naturally experience more gratitude more frequently than others, and therefore the habit becomes an ingrained trait. It's something that they really use to see the world around them through clear connection, both inner and outer. It's just this habit that becomes a mindset, that becomes a natural part of them. Therefore, it becomes the trait. Gratitude could also be a mood, which means that it's going to fluctuate over time. We all know what it's like to be in a bad mood or a good mood or even a neutral mood, but gratitude can be like that too, where you might experience periods where you feel more grateful just in general, and then other times you don't feel grateful at all, and therefore you have a mood of gratitude. And then, of course, we go back to the original understanding where gratitude is an emotion. This is much more of a briefer feeling. It's more in the moment, and it's usually tied more to our experiences than our overall mindset, our overall perspectives. Very important to kind of understand where you fall, and then to understand how important it is to practice gratitude. I gave you a few things at the top of this conversation talking about the impact of gratitude. Let's talk about them a little bit more, and then we're going to talk about creating the mindset. I mentioned earlier that those who practice gratitude experience more physical and psychological health or benefits from the practice itself. But what we didn't talk about is what happens to stress, anxiety, and depression when we are practicing gratitude in a way that it is more health-promoting behaviors. What happens is we begin to not connect as much to the hard things. Therefore, we actually lower anxiety, stress, and depression. All three of those things are very different. Stress is generally tied to the moment. We're in a space where there's higher levels of activity. There's more mental and emotional demand, and there is more on the line in the moment, right? It's a physical body reaction to what is happening in the environment around us and within us. Cortisol, it rises in us. Our emotional body is a little off kilter. Our thoughts are often out of whack. It's this environmental stimuli that is really trying to keep us safe as we navigate a certain situation. Anxiety is all about forecasting. You hear me say that word so often. I want you to put it in your mind like you are a weather person and you are trying to predict the exact temperature for tomorrow. This is anxiety, okay? It is sitting with your pen, your paper, your thought process, your emotional body, and trying to predict almost with exact certainty how something is going to play out, even though you do not have all of the information that you need. You do not have evidence. You are literally pulling things from past experiences, from thought patterns, from perspectives, and trying to create a conclusion of something that has not happened yet. Anxiety is all about tomorrow. It's about what will be. It's about uncertainty. It's about trying to figure out what will keep yourself safe and what may actually come in and destroy your happiness, right? And so we borrow trouble and we create situations that are really difficult for us to get out of. Where anxiety is about tomorrow, depression is about yesterday. It is this downgrading of the self. It is destroying the value of you in hopes that you feel better about all the bullshit that's happened prior, okay? And it really is a space where we take ourselves down based on something that has already occurred. And so when we look at how gratitude impacts us, we actually begin to stop connecting so intensely with what may be or with what was, and even connecting to the things that are so hard in the moment. Gratitude gives us this space that says, I know things are going to change. And that even though this moment is hard, there's so much value in my life that the hard is not going to take the lead position. So that's how I want you to use gratitude. This is the mindset that we're wanting to cultivate. So let's move through the how. Step one, even though we don't really need to go in order and we don't need to necessarily hit every single one of these steps, I want to give you a little bit of a formula so that you can put this into practice, therefore moving into that mindset. So the first thing that I want you to try is just to savor the good. Sometimes being grateful is just hard. When things are crazy, when things are stressful, we all know that it's hard to shift your mind back into feeling its best or finding something to appreciate. So when we begin to savor the good, we have to intentionally look for it. Really begin to explore the simple things in your life. Begin to provide your mind with evidence that you actually do have good. Again, we go back to those questions that I asked in the very beginning. How much are you practicing gratitude? How many times are you looking around in your day-to-day or in your mind, in your thought process, in your emotional body thinking, wow, you know what? I have so many things that I am so thankful I have in my life. I want you to get there. I want you to savor the good. One way that I encourage everyone who works with me to do this is to create a daily win log. It looks different. It has different names for each person. But essentially what it is writing down, recognizing the value any time that you have something that comes up for you that you feel good about. You know, what did you see, hear, feel, smell, taste, explore this moment, this day that made you feel good? What was it that grabbed your attention and said, see, this is the evidence that you're worthwhile? This is the evidence that you have good. Gratitude has this very powerful way of improving self-worth because it shows us that the goodness in our lives has the ability to be about us. It's not about everybody else, it's about us. It magnifies positive emotion, right? Because it's an emotion itself. So think about it. What can you savor? What can you write down on your day-to-day log? I want you to stop right now. Think about yesterday. What is one thing about yesterday that you can truly stop and savor? And don't say that there's nothing, because it's complete BS. It's an excuse. It's a toxic block of good emotion. Stop it. What was good about yesterday? Whatever it is, I want you to lock it in. This is the thing I want you focusing on. This is the savor point, right? Maybe it's that you drove home safely from point A to point B. That is something that should be on your list. This is how simple I want you to get down to, right? I got to where I needed to be safely. I got to say hello to a friend. I had the pleasure of helping someone who needed just to be seen. Whatever it is, it goes into that space. And then the second part to all of this, step 2, if you will, is to anchor yourself in the present moment. Remember, gratitude is an emotion, and it is best experienced in the present. We can have gratitude for the past, but it's a very difficult thing a lot of times to connect our emotional body to it. It's not like we're like, oh, you know what? That made me so grateful. That actually takes a lot of skill set and a lot of practice to get into. But gratitude in this present moment allows you to really find a space of savoring and providing the mind with evidence that you have gratitude, you have appreciation, you have things that are working in your favor. A tool is to use your breath. What do I mean by that? If you stop every time you get a sense of gratitude rising in you, and you literally pull in a deep breath, the kind of breath that your diaphragm expands, your lungs feel very full, and you are really deeply connected with the whole process of breathing, guess what? The nervous system alerts the brain, letting the brain know that, hey, you know what? This is a moment we need to lock in. This is a moment that we need to slow down. Every time you do this, you begin to provide the brain with evidence that that feeling of goodness is not only worth it, but it is the pattern in which you are leaning into. In fact, you may even begin to notice that as you do this, you will find yourself throughout the day taking really deep, meaningful breaths, and that itself becomes a gratitude factor. I know I do it. I've watched the people even in my own home start doing it, and sometimes they'll say, oh, are you okay? Is there something wrong? No, I'm just slowing down for a minute. And it's beautiful, and it's allowed, and you should give yourself permission to do it. And it is, again, a gratitude factor. What is more worthy of appreciation than finding comfort in yourself? Isn't that something to find deep appreciation for? I hope you're saying yes, and you may be saying no because you haven't experienced it yet, but I'm telling you, every time you see something that is worth your appreciation, stop and take the breath, tell the nervous system to slow down, tell the brain this is the pattern in which we are showing up, and you will begin to feel gratitude. Not only will you feel it internally, but it will fill you from the inside out. So important, so beautiful, so simple. The third step is to use subtraction and not addition. When we are leaning into gratitude, we tend to think that we have to add more into our lives. More of this, more of that, more practices, more tools, more things. And what we want to do again is cultivate a mindset, which means that it's more automatic than us trying to add more things that we have to keep up with. Sometimes our lives are so busy. I'm sure you're like me, where it's like, when will I practice that? When will I do that? That adding something else feels so overwhelming. And so again, we're subtracting. If I removed this one thing that wasn't necessary, would that give me more freedom, more time to be able to lock in and get to this self time where I can actually enjoy my moments? If I don't take that new job, or I don't take that project, or if I don't agree to these things that are not serving me, would I be able to enjoy a bit more? Would I find appreciation for the people, the things, the moments, the skills, the gifts, the peace, the power, the comfort? Would I be able to do it? If you can, then wouldn't you want to subtract instead of add? The tool is getting into a space where you allow yourself, you give yourself permission to let go of what needs to be gone. Subtraction instead of addition. What do I need to do to best support myself? That is such a powerful question. The fourth thing that you can practice is to get personal. Focus on the impact of making your life. What kind of life do you want? What kind of things would actually help you in all ways? What would actually give you enough space, whether in your mind or in your emotional body, in your life, that would allow you to feel like you are making and creating and living the life that you want? This is such a powerful exercise. Get so personal. Focus on the impact. What kind of impact are you making? What kind of life are you living? What kind of space do you have for yourself? Observe what's happening. Give thanks by making sure that you understand the life that you are living. And through that, I want you then to create a gratitude ritual. It's pausing for a moment to appreciate things. It's meditation, it's prayer, it's mantras, it's getting up and writing 5 things. It's asking, like I do at the end of every podcast that you hear, because I do that in my personal life too. What are 3 things that you're grateful for right now? It's encouraging someone else to have this interpersonal relationship with you that is focused in the gratitude experience. Again, we're trying to cultivate a mindset. It's about nurturing your thoughts. It's about nurturing yourself. And this is where we step into step 5, which is nurturing the thoughts. It's picking what you want to work towards and feeling good. It's understanding that your thoughts create your feelings, and your feelings create your actions, and actions can be another thing, another thought, right? Doesn't always have to be movement. What are you thinking about? What are you really focusing on? What are you honing in on that is not working in your favor? And what is? Again, we go back to, what do we need to let go of? A tool here would be to measure your thoughts. You may have heard me talk about this before, but this is one of the most fundamental, primary tools and exercises that you can use to best serve yourself. Doing this allows you to know where your mindset is. So write down your thoughts. Carry that notebook around. Write them down. What is working in your thought process? What is not? What are you thinking about? If you need to see it on paper to be able to actively create change, you need to do this exercise. I know for me, it was fundamental. I know when I have something that is really challenging on my plate and I need to make a decision, I will often do this. I will sit with the thoughts. I won't make an automatic decision. I will write them down. I will go about my business. And then when the thought occurs, I write it down again. And that way I can really look at the ins and outs of whatever is processing in my mind. And once I see it, I can look at it and say, okay, what can I be grateful for in this thought? Maybe it's just that I'm grateful that I had it because it's really keeping me from making a mistake. Gratitude does not only have to be a good feeling, it can also be a thing where we say, oh, you know what? This would actually lead me into very negative, disastrous thoughts, and therefore I'm not going to actually go there. So I'm going to have gratitude for the negative rising. I want you to think about that. It's an emotion, it goes both ways. Every emotion has good and bad, light and dark, positive and negative. Understand this too works that way. So write down your thoughts. Step 7 would be to watch your language, how you speak. Grateful people have very particular patterns and styles. They use words like beautiful, blessing, grateful, gift, focus, fortunate, abundance. There's so many words like that. These are natural parts of their speech pattern. So are you grateful? Are your words, is the language you use gratitude centered? Key in. Listen. I'll often tell people, I know if you're an emotional thinker or a logical thinker based on what you say. I feel is feeling based, emotional. I think, logic. From there, I really listen to the gratitude centered language. I feel so good about what's happening. The experience was so beautiful. That's using your emotional mind with a heightened gratitude. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? How are you relating to the moment? And 7 goes back to writing down what you're feeling, but in a different way, right? It's looking at whatever comes in those thought processes. So maybe it's something from the past, and you begin to recall the moments and you begin to work on how this works for you. Think about a certain person. Okay, that was such a great connection, a great, beautiful experience. Or even if it wasn't a great experience, here's what I learned, and I'm grateful for it. It's writing down whatever is happening in the mind in order to really have an understanding that the mindset is always available to you. You can craft a mindset by simply focusing on it, right? Creating it so that you do what is necessary. And the last step is to reframe your experiences. You can increase gratitude by comparing. We'll talk about that in just a second because you know I normally say don't compare. But you can compare your current situation to a negative experience in your past. Doing this also allows you to own the strength that you've carried, the resiliency that you've created from the past into the here and now. So you can reframe the situation. Wow, this moment is really hard. But you know what? It's not as hard as that last moment where I was really struggling. And I was able to make it through that. And so here I am now. I know that I have the power to make this work for me too. I have the strength from my past, that resiliency to move me forward. And here I am, so grateful. So reframe. You want to be able to get into a space where every situation that you feel, hear, touch, sense, and create has a way of being good. Everything has an opposite. Everything around you is meant to help you grow. It's meant to help you be alive, to give, to enjoy. You're not supposed to live in toxic emotions, in envy and resentment and regret and depression and stress and all the things that destroy your happiness. You are meant to live a grateful life. You're meant to have a mindset that says, I am open to everything, closed to nothing, and able to move through because I know that there is something good for me. I know there's something healthy. I know there's something wonderful. You have to remember that everything has something for you. Gratitude really is one of life's biggest continuous cycles of giving and receiving. It's being thankful for who you are, for what's in your life. It's about focusing on attracting prosperity and abundance and then giving it outward. What you give, you so shall too receive. Haven't you ever heard that? It's such a beautiful way to look at your life. If I give moments to my happiness, if I give my focus, if I give everything I have to feeling good and knowing that goodness is available to me, I will not only create that outside of me, I will receive it tenfold. Gratitude is a mindset. It's something that changes your life. I know that there's pressure to only be grateful in certain times of the year, Thanksgiving, Christmas, these religious holidays, no matter what you celebrate. But only practicing during those times puts so much pressure on you. It puts so much pressure on this sense of gratitude that it actually doesn't add anything to your overall daily life. It becomes this thing that you have to do instead of something that you want to do. So focus. What are you grateful for? We go back to that question. If the world only worked on gratitude, would you have enough currency to survive? What are you grateful for? What makes you want to get up in the morning and try again? What makes you feel alive? Whatever it is, begin to live through it. Use visual reminders. Print out the pictures. Do the vision boards. Put the things on the background of your phone. Do whatever it is that makes you feel good and strengthen it. Remember that gratitude lights up the reward center of your brain. Why would you not be using this to your benefit? Spend time questioning, spend time listening, spend time exploring, spend time in a space where you get to nurture yourself. Spend time in the thought process that nothing is lacking, that there's something to be grateful for. Remember that you are enough because you are simply here to be enough. And everything you experience shows you that, not the opposite. I am enough. Seek gratitude. Be centered in it. Live in it. Everything you do has the power to create something more. So what does that look like for you? What will you do? When you focus this way, when you create this mindset, you give yourself the power to live in a space that eludes so many. This is what feeling good is all about. This is an essential step into getting your life together. Thank you so much for listening to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast. If you're seeking daily inspiration and additional tools and tips and you're not following me on social media, you can find me at Get Your Life Together Girl on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Clapper, and Threads. You can also visit the show notes and my website at getyourlifetogethergirl.com. And while you're on the website, I invite you to take a look around where you can find exclusive tools, downloads, and even merch. I also encourage you to join me on Insight Timer, where we post weekly new meditations and conversations, and there are even courses there. I want to once again thank you for being a valuable member of this community. If you love this podcast, please rate it on whatever platform that you listen to, as it does help spread this message to those who may need it. Until next time, be kind to yourself and others.